In 1996, a vial of insulin cost $21. By 2017, that same vial cost $275. A 1,200% increase. For the exact same drug, the cost to produce it? Between $2 and $4. They didn't discover a cure, they didn't revolutionize medicine, they just raised the price. And when people couldn't afford it, they died. Welcome to the most profitable industry in America, where life-saving drugs are priced like luxury goods, and profit margins matter more than pulse rates. This is the big pharma monopoly. Insulin was first introduced in 1996 as Humalog at $21.23 for a 10 milliliter vial. By 2006, it had jumped to $70. By 2016, it reached $255, a 264% increase in just 10 years. By 2017, it peaked at $275. 8.4 million Americans need insulin to survive. Without it, they die. It's not optional. It's not negotiable. And pharmaceutical companies know that. 3 companies, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi, control more than 90% of the insulin market. When one raises prices, the others follow. It's not competition, it's coordination. By cutting list prices by 70% in 2023,
announced it was cutting the cost of insulin by nearly 70%.
Eli Lilly avoided paying an additional $430 million in Medicaid rebates and earned $85 million more in profits due to how the rebate formula works. They cut prices and made more money. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly as designed. For them. Here's how the monopoly works. When a pharmaceutical company develops a drug, they get a 20-year patent. Fair enough, they invested in research, they deserve protection. But then, the games begin. It's called evergreening. Change the color of the pill? New patent. Change the dosage? New patent. Combine it with another drug? New patent. AstraZeneca's Prilosec was product hopped to Nexium, then more patents were piled onto Nexium. Companies can add multiple protections to single drugs. Secondary patents covering drug formulations add an average of 6.5 years of patent life. Method of use patents add an average of 7.4 years. And if a generic manufacturer tries to compete, Pharma sues them into oblivion. Even if the lawsuit is frivolous, fighting it costs millions and takes years. Sometimes, they just pay the generic manufacturer to not make the drug. It's called pay for delay. Your illness is their business model. Cancer drugs are even worse. Nearly 80% of all first-in-class drugs in the pharmaceutical pipeline are for cancer. Without policy intervention, launch prices are expected to keep rising. These aren't small profits. These are empire profits. And when the government tried to negotiate lower prices through the Inflation Reduction Act, recent legislation has delayed Medicare price negotiations for some of the biggest selling cancer drugs, including Keytruda, by at least 1 year. Other drugs like Darzalex are now excluded entirely from negotiation. How did that happen? Lobbying. Pharmaceutical companies targeted legislators on key healthcare committees, like the House Energy and Commerce Committee and Senate Finance Committee, showering them with campaign cash. In August 2024, the Justice Department alleged that the government had proposed a regulation to prevent insurance companies from overcharging federal programs like Medicare Advantage, but backed away after stakeholder concern and pushback. They didn't just influence the law, they wrote the law. This isn't just about money, it's about lives. Alex Smith was 26 years old. He aged out of his parents' insurance, couldn't afford his insulin, started rationing. He was found dead in his apartment. His insulin prescription was half full. He'd been stretching it to make it last. He's not the only one. Nicole Smith-Holt's son, also named Alec, died the same way. She's now an advocate, testifying before Congress, begging them to act. Meanwhile, in fiscal year 2023, approximately $1.8 billion was recovered in healthcare fraud settlements under the False Claims Act. One cancer patient was overcharged more than $120,000 for a year of cancer drugs, according to insurance documents. These aren't accidents. These aren't market forces. These are choices. Choices made by people in boardrooms calculating how much they can extract from someone who's desperate to live. After public pressure, insulin prices finally dropped in 2024. Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi all capped out-of-pocket costs at $35 per month or reduced list prices by 70 to 78%. It took decades. It took deaths. It took activism. But here's the question nobody's asking. If they can afford to charge $35 now, why were they charging $275 before? The drug didn't change. The cost to produce it didn't change. Only the public outcry changed. The Department of Health and Human Services negotiated prices for 10 Medicare drugs that were 38 to 79% lower than original market prices, projected to save patients $1.5 billion in the first year, which means they could have charged less all along. The big pharma monopoly isn't about innovation, it's about extraction. They didn't make a cure, they made a market.